Hey guys, good to see you. A bunch of you already in the chat. Love to see that. Why don't they want to show their camera? Are they too worried we'll all be staring at their gut? Nope. It's just like, why would I? I don't want to be famous in real life. I don't want to be like, have people come up to me. Like, that sounds like a nightmare to me. Much rather be known online and not known offline. Just makes sense to me. I don't know why people seek fame. Seems fucking, I don't know, only downsides there. But yeah, I mean, the videos would be a little bit better, I think, with like human interaction in form of like a camera, but it's not worth the downside for me. Even more so in crypto, you never know, right? Let's say Bitcoin goes to like 500K. You don't want to be known for like having traded it successfully for a couple of years. Seems like a bad idea. Dawn not shorting 29K based on 2018 experience was such an underrated move. Master trader. I mean, wouldn't call it master trader, but yeah, you gotta learn from your experience, right? And I mean, this was a good example. For the people that missed the last live stream, I mean, if you wanna like, it's hilarious because the sentiment was completely different. The last stream was down here and now we're like all the way up here. That's like 20% move or something. And I had to like 30% move even. And I had to argue people that this was indeed bullish. But yep, is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, that played out nicely. The last stream aged wonderfully. I had like a bunch of stuff to do in the weekend, so I closed early. But I mean, hope you guys made some money. Hope you guys saved some. Based on that recommendation. No idea if you did, but I mean, hope it helped at least someone. I mean, I made a bunch of money. Could have made much more, but that is trading, right? Gonna be the same situation this weekend where I'm gonna be gone starting basically today. So no idea. No idea what I'm gonna do because I'm not gonna hold when I'm not home. So I'll just have to sit here basically doing nothing, being gone for like half a week or a little bit more than that. But yeah, before we start, shout out to today's sponsor of the show, which is Blockfolio, FTX. I mean, who knows nowadays? But yeah, it's basically as far as I understood, and I mean, I didn't get notified as much as I would have liked, but as far as I'm aware, it's like the Blockfolio app is now called FTX. So everything else is still the same, it's just the branding is different. So if you want to check them out, the links are still in the description. Same thing, kind of same, like it's all the same still, it's just the name's different. Gonna see how that affects branding and stuff, but that's something for next week. Is it a coin flip now or leaning bullish? It's a coin flip, I think. Like it was pretty, to me, it was pretty like obvious that at least here, like if you wanna, like if you were shorting, you were doing like a giant mistake. Now, like I could see the case for short here. I can see a case for long here. We'll talk about both, and then you make your decision because I'm not going to make any. Because I'm gonna be gone, right? But I can talk about like the bullish setup, the bearish setup, whatever. Kind of give you both sides of the medal. But I'm not really like bearish or bullish. Like if I had to pick a direction, I would probably expect this to go up further. But I'm glad I don't have to. But yeah, it's pretty tough getting into position after like a run like this. How is the golf practice coming along? Getting better? Yeah, much better actually. I like the tournament's tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and I'll be leaving for it pretty much tomorrow morning. So yeah, I better be at least somewhat decent, and I feel like I'm starting to get there. I will short now. Good luck, my friend. Good luck. So high time frames, right? I mean, this is what all the fuss is about. It's hilarious in the grand scheme of things. This is a tiny candle. Um, this is literally the first screen we've had on the monthly after like 3 red months that were giant, right? So this isn't like too bullish in itself. It's just like if it bounces, like there's some more room to go. Like typically when you get like these moves, you kind of get to at least close to where the candle started closing. So somewhere below here. So like somewhere in here would make sense on the monthly time scale, right? To either break down or go higher. So there's not that much here. Didn't bounce anywhere significant. It's just like that's how these charts tend to look at some point. High time frame wise, I wouldn't get too excited. Like this isn't a bullish chart. Still looks like a bubble pop. But I mean, if you turn on log chart, looks a little bit more manageable. And I mean, it's not bearish, right? The trend's still up. It's just, yeah, if you turn on log chart, it looks pretty much the exact same as it did in 17, 18. But the monthly doesn't really matter anyway because there's no support resistance that we can play. I mean, at some point it's going to matter. Let's say we go to 50K. I think that's gonna be pretty much the area where the monthly would start looking shit to me. Like this isn't looking bad. It's not looking good. At 50K, like that's where you start getting like really good risk reward for like the short side of things if you want to take those. Anything before there, like not really, right? Based on the high time frames anyway. The lower time frames did something pretty funny. We talked about this last stream, I think, where we undercut like overthrew the range and then undercut it and pretty much did like a back and forth. Now we closed this week at resistance, right? It just moved straight afterwards. So I want to like the only kind of bearish argument that I have for this or like that I could make for the weekly chart is when we if we retrace the entire weekly candle, that would look like it's just gonna completely collapse. I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be very surprising to me. So like the weekly chart in general doesn't look too bad to me. I think like if we close back above 38K, there's a good chance that this just keeps on running to 45 or 49, right? Either of those make sense to me. Now, if we close at 38K, I think this would turn into support at that point, and then it has to hold. So what that would look like is we close here. And like I said, I'm not going to be home. Maybe I'm going to be back for the weekly close. Not entirely sure. But if we close here, I think the next week will probably be a red one into like the 35K area. And then you'd have to just take another long setup at that point because the invalidation is pretty tight, right? So invalidation down here, you get in here, you target in here like that. You don't have to slap on the risk reward tool to see that that's a good trade, right? That would be if we close back below that box. How it looks right now is that we're just gonna close back above it. And if that turns out to be the case, I think 38K is gonna turn into support, and then you wanna make a play into like at least like the mid to low 40K, like 40K range. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's how I'm gonna play the weekly. Good thing is I don't like with these candles, right? Whenever I get a candle close at resistance and it moves straight afterwards, like if I'm bearish, for example, I try to fade these, right? As far away from resistance as possible. In this case, the breakout was too aggressive for me to expect this to just wick, right? If this wicked, I mean, it would look like we're going to zero, right? Which we don't want to see, right? So if I'm bearish, that's what I do. If I'm bullish, I just wait and see how the candle closes. And if I'm in position already, I'm happy about it, right? So in this case, not really bearish, even more so given we've had like a shakeout above, and if we get another one, that'd be just like, that's a rare occurrence. Usually you get one, like you have like a resistance, you break out of it, and then if you break down, it has to have follow through. If it does not, if it does something like this, breaks out, goes back down, and then starts creeping up again, more often than not, it just starts breaking out, right? And that is how this is looking right now. But I mean, the weekly close is still a little bit off. So given that's the case, gotta be a little bit careful at least. See if we maybe retrace back to 38K or something. And then maybe we have like a red week next week. So yeah, that's that. I mean, I'm just kind of happy that I called this correctly, even though I had 0 setups. And I mean, this is how these bear market kind of moves work. And I mean, we'll talk about like whether this is a bear market or not. For me, it still is, obviously, given the drop. But I mean, you can make an argument against it too. But in general, like how these types of movements work is they don't give you any entry, and then they fuck you over if you take any like signal that would tell you to short or whatever. Because like back in the day, back when I was inexperienced, back in here, basically on the leverage side of things, right? I knew how to trade spot. I made a bunch of money on the altcoins, but I didn't trade like leverage too much. I made a bunch of money during the down moves, and then I got caught up by stuff like this and gave like a sum of it back. Whereas like it closed at resistance, you would want to like just say, okay, it's a resistance, this is a bear market, I'm just gonna short. The problem is when you like kind of fade the momentum like this, more often than not you get wrecked. And you can see the same thing. Like look at this undercut, right? If you want to say, okay, this is the weekly time frame, would have taken ages to play out, you can see this exact same thing on the daily time frame too, right? You undercut it and then you went back in it, and then you mooned. And that's why like last week, last stream, I flipped pretty bullish, and yeah, worked out pretty nicely. So yeah, didn't have a setup, didn't have anything, caught some of the move regardless. Didn't like, I mean, I don't really short, but I wouldn't even have shorted even if I could have, just based on the fact that I've made my experience. So pretty happy with that. Your call at 31K was crazy, Don the God. I mean, could have made a bunch more money though. Like the call was good. I still like, whenever I go out for the weekend, I usually close positions. And in this case, there was not really a difference. So can't beat myself up too much about it, but still annoying obviously, because my target was 38K. I closed before that, went to 38 and then even squeezed past it. But yeah, next week it's bear. I wouldn't be so sure about it. Like what it could do, like let's say this closes here, it could wick to 38K and then just go. And that's not really a bearish kind of movement. But we will see. I mean, like I said, look at the weekly towards Sunday, see how it shapes up. But yeah, the problem with these moves, like I said, you're not going to get an entry signal. You're just going to have to kind of play with the momentum and pray to God that you're not going to be buying the top or bottom, like the top or selling the bottom. And I mean, it's easier said than done. But Don, everyone on CT and YouTube says that the bull run is just getting started. I mean, the thing is, it could be. And this is like, let's make the bullish argument for a second, right? Because I've talked about the bearish argument, and I mean, I've been talking about it since like the 60K range. So I feel like that's all fine and dandy, right? But let's talk about the bullish argument for once. Because I mean, there are a lot of bullish arguments that you can make. One, you have like a head and shoulders kind of type movement here. You broke that down and that ended in a fake out, right? That's hilariously bullish in itself. Given the fact that this should have realistically broken down. Now it can still break down, right? But I mean, that entire pattern basically failed. I mean, that's a pretty good sign in itself. Two, look at this and look at the trend, right? I mean, this is like straight up uptrend forever, and we can go back in time. We can go back in time. Start of log. And then you look at this and you're like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit, like, you don't want to be bearish this thing for too long, right? So there's an argument to be made that this is just an uptrend in general. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry about that. So like you have the trend on your side, the long time frame trend. Now there are bear markets in this thing, and I wouldn't just discount them, but like in general, as like a crypto participant, it pays to be bullish, right? You don't want to be too bearish, long term anyway. So like there's a bunch of arguments. Like you have the trend, you have the breakdown, failure, whatever, and then this is realistically, look at this, right? This is realistically the first pullback in this entire rally, right? So in any other market, when you have like a rally like this, I mean, you could even include this entire thing, right? This was the rally, this is the pullback. Now in any other market, you want to be buying like those kind of pullbacks all the time, right? The problem is that we went up so high that this pullback was basically above 50%, which is terrifying, but I mean, there's a bullish argument to be made about this, right? You just get like a massive uptrend and then you break down. So, I mean, like I've been seeing Twitter and I've been seeing my comments and everything else getting like more and more bearish in the last few days, 2 weeks. And while I think there's a good argument to be made for it, because I mean, like I said, I sold a bunch at 60K. I mean, I sold on the way up, but I sold the rest of it at 60K. And I haven't really, like I've bought a couple times, sold a couple times, but I haven't really bought back my kind of holdback. But I mean, this isn't really like the most bearish looking chart that we've ever had, right? So yeah, just saying, don't get completely, like what I've been seeing is basically people doubling and tripling down on their position, right? So it breaks down, like they're bullish basically all the way. It breaks down, it breaks their heart, it breaks their wallets. And then they get bearish during this, and then they double and triple down. And if this continues to go up, they're going to be out of the crypto market for good, because at that point, you're going to be, okay, I should have bought this, I'm fucked, right? So don't ever be that guy. I've seen a lot of people over the years do that. Most of the time they turn into like tether truthers, into like conspiracy people that just kind of make up shit to kind of justify to themselves why they sold and why they never got back in. Don't kind of turn into that guy. Like, if you long-term target 150K, you don't want to be the guy that says, like let's say your long-term target is up here, right? And your short-term target is at 20K. You don't want to be the guy that's like hilariously bearish down here, right? Sells everything and then doubles and triples down while it goes to your target, right? Now, I'm not saying we're going to 150K, but I'm just saying, like, do have an invalidation. And the main reason why I was getting so like bullish last week was because there was not a good invalidation for like buying back or whatever, because there's so much resistance on the way that you just don't know where you're gonna step back in, right? And I mean, that's the problem that I have right now, which is, I mean, where the fuck do you buy, right? If this pulls back to 35, I mean, that's quite the pullback. But I mean, that's like a decent one to buy and then target higher if you're bullish. If you're bearish, you want to see that fail, and then I think you can target much lower. But that's the only kind of structure that you can do business on, right? And if this breaks out here, what do? Do you buy the pullback to like 40K? Do you think this is gonna be a range breakout? And it gets really, really difficult here. And that's why sometimes you have to front run the market when you expect it to get difficult if it goes up, because most of the time someone in this market abuses that fact and kind of fucks you over. Because, I mean, we have a bunch of smart traders in the market that can just squeeze the shit out of you and make you FOMO back in at the worst time. So, yeah. Trade against CT sentiment? I mean, not necessarily, but when it gets like hilariously bearish, then yes, you can. Like, legitimately, don't counter trade the bullishness. If you want to be counter trading anything, counter trade the bearishness on Twitter. Leverage equals wrecked. I mean, for a lot of people, yeah. I mean, you could have made a bunch of money on leverage on the way up. It's just, for most people, it's just a losing game. Doesn't this look the same as the 20k top and lower high after lower high? I mean, if you want to compare this, right? You had your top and you had a shakeout in here and then you broke down, right? And at that point, the moment you broke down, you never made higher highs, right? So either you're arguing that we're doing like this and then start breaking down, so we're in like this type of kind of market, or you're saying, okay, we've had this breakdown, we're bouncing now, and we're kind of exactly... now I need to remove these. We're kind of exactly at this point in here. And I mean, I could see that. It's just a question, like even back then, like this was really difficult to trade. I remember I posted this kind of GIF, whatever you want to call it, of like a polar bear playing the guitar, like in here. And then I was like proper spooked. I think like I posted in here and started shorting, and then it went down. I was like, I'm the biggest genius, and I went all the way back above my entry, and I was starting to freak out. That wasn't easy to trade, and I mean, if we're in there, I mean, this is not gonna be easy to trade either. So, like the easy trades are in the bull market or like the continuation trades. It's just like you kind of have to turn your brain off, and for some people, that's really hard. So given I know that, and for me buying, like brain dead buying is really hard. I try to kind of catch these, and last week we did. So having a long-term perspective is super underrated, 100%. Because what people do, right? They're like, okay, this is going to 200k. I'm gonna be leverage trading this range and try to make as much Bitcoin as I can because it's going to 200k. And what they do is they risk the entire Bitcoin stack. And I mean, this is something that has happened over and over again. I've seen it happen like a million times. From like down at like 2-3k, even in here, where people are like, okay, this is generally going to 100k, but I'm just gonna like fade this once or do whatever. And then they get liquidated and they get bitter because they can't put back in what they've lost, right? And that's not something that you want to be doing. So revenge trading and kind of over trading, if you have like a long-term plan for this thing, something that you shouldn't be doing. But yeah. If volume comes back in, what direction should the price do? I mean... yeah, that fried my brain a little. I mean, if volume can come in both ways, right? Let's say something bearish comes out of Bitcoin, like you get like bearish news, some regulatory news, whatever, and then you get a bunch of volume to the downside. I mean, that's obviously going to be bearish, or you get like positive news, or you get another short squeeze and the volume comes in, and that goes to the upside. Like just because volume goes up doesn't have to mean it goes up or down. Just do either, really. So what about buying right here? The problem with buying right here, right? And this is like, we talked about this on Monday on Weekly Open, right? The show that I do with Josh, Luke, and Ledger. Is like, I talked about this in here, right, at 37 pretty much, or like a little bit higher. I said if you want to be FOMOing, FOMO early, right? And that was like it. Like 35 to 37 was like the FOMO early kind of thing, where you know that you're gonna like, this is something that I see people do all the time, right? This is starting to go, and people can see that or can tell that it's gonna go up, but they're like, I'm just gonna be reasonable. I'm not gonna be chasing this. Just gonna sit here and let it do its thing, right? And it goes higher, and they're like, fuck, I should have chased. And then it goes higher, and they're like, fuck it. If I took that trade at that point, I would have made so much money. And then it goes even higher, and they're like, fuck it. If I took it here, I would have made a bunch of money. So I'm going to take it here. And then they get fucked. And then maybe the idea is still correct, right? But like, if you want to FOMO, or like if you in general are in the position that you know that if price goes higher, you're going to FOMO into the market, do it the moment you start getting that feeling. Like, even if it goes down, you're much better off than just sitting there waiting for it to go up to buy higher. Like, that's so stupid, and I see it all the time. Like, people are like, okay, I'm not gonna FOMO, but like in the end, they're gonna FOMO if price goes up, right? And so if you have that, I mean, do it early. I think at this point, like at range high directly into resistance, that's a little bit aggressive. I wouldn't want to do that. Like, this is pretty much the worst place to kind of long. Besides maybe if we kind of go up here and then starts breaking down, because then you would have another overthrow of the range. Like, this is a really bad place to long. Now, could it go up? 100%. It's just like, this was a really good one if you wanted to long. Now, obviously, it looked really shitty back then. This breakout was a decently good one. And then even the FOMO one was a decently good one. But even if you FOMOed back into it, like at 37, if you're not taking some off at 40, I think you're crazy. But it definitely could go higher. So, I mean, at this point, like, there's no good advice that I can give on that front. I would never buy into like resistance like that. And if you want to make an argument for any kind of pattern, for like a bullish pattern, I mean, you could make an argument for something like this, where it then chews up. Invert would be funny if this bottoms on an inverse head and shoulders and topped on a normal one. So, yep, pretty difficult right here. And this, like what I'm saying, like this market is really difficult to trade right now. So that's why I told people, take the summer off, just fuck off. Like at 60K. Or like at 50K or something, I told people, just fuck off, take your time and chill, spend some time with your family, and then come back in the winter. And I mean, this is just really hard PA to trade. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but your view was, regardless if we were going up or down, altcoins would suffer. This move up was almost 1-to-1 with altcoins. Do you have a theory? I mean, no, it wasn't. Look at altcoins. And I mean, these are the shitty ones, obviously, right? The one exception is XRP, but that squeezes from time to time. But look at altcoins. Look at, like, even the DeFi stuff against Bitcoin. Look at where they're going. What uni we could look at. Like, the altcoins suffered. That's what I said. Like, I don't see a world. Like, even if this breaks out here, you're going to see a bunch of pain on the altcoins. And if it breaks down here, you're going to see massive pain on the altcoins. The only kind of way I see the altcoins go up is if we start ranging here. Like between 35 and 40K. I think at that point, or if we start breaking out here and then start ranging up here. Like, those are the two areas where I could see, like, in here, people would think risk is back on, would kind of go into altcoins, and I think that would be, like, that would make the top. Same thing in here. I think this would more be like people are bored and kind of get into altcoins. Both of these would be bearish for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is bullish, you want to see, like, the altcoins get outperformed the entire way on their Bitcoin pairs. So there you go. But yeah, this resistance has to give. But the problem is, even if it does, could just be an overthrow. And that's why this is so difficult to trade. Because if you long that resistance break, there's a good chance that you just long the top. I think that pretty much like almost a 50-50. And your target would be what? Like down here at like 45, 50. So like there's no good risk reward to be had anywhere. And that's why I'm saying like have a strong conviction, buy something, sell something, and stick with it. And then at some point flip your bias like at like maybe 50, 55 if you're bearish, and if you're bullish below 35k. I think like this is the best level to flip. Like if you're a bull and 35k gives, I mean, get the fuck out. Like legitimately the market would be pretty fucked at that point. So at least to the downside, like if you're bull, you have an invalidation. To the upside, if you're bear, you don't. Besides like maybe 50k. So being a bear is harder here, and being a bull is easier. And you usually just want to be trying to kind of be on the side that is easier for you. Just based on the fact that you will have no idea where this is going to go if it breaks to the upside. So if you have no idea where it's going to go, if it breaks to the upside, it makes being bearish really hard, because you're just going to be keep on adding, like, because you could say this is a bearish, like right now it's a bearish retest, and if it goes up here, that's a bearish retest. If it goes up here, that's a bearish retest, and then it, like, if it breaks that, maybe it does a complacency shoulder here or here, and then you start flipping back bullish after having been bearish this entire way. So like, yeah, pretty shitty position to be in. If you would take an alt trade, would it be ETH right now? Yeah, if I had to take an altcoin trade, it would be ETH. But ETH looks kind of shit, not gonna lie. Like, I don't see why anyone would want to long ETH right now. Looks complete garbage. That said, on the weekly time frame, it's kind of okay-ish. I said on Monday, like I said on weekly open, that like if I had to take a trade, it would be ETH, and it's not looking too terrible. And I mean, I still stand by that. Like, it's still at support, whatever. It's the third test-ish. But I mean, I said back then too, like I don't see, like, if Bitcoin shows too much strength, I don't see ETH doing well. And it hasn't, and I don't think it will. And yeah, if Bitcoin starts ranging, then maybe. Then I'd start looking at the altcoins some more, and maybe even buy some of the altcoins. ETH being the easiest one to trade, and then the further down the list you go into like shitcoin territory, the bigger the gains, the bigger the losses. And I mean, we can talk about Dogecoin real quick, because this is where you see how people are getting wrecked without realizing it. We can add this to the list. Like, I've circled, for the people that don't know, like I've circled Elon tweets or moments, like this was Elon tweets. A bunch of these were all moments where people thought that Dogecoin was going back up. If you look at this thing, it just looks completely hideous. And if you want to compare it to anything, compare it to XRP back in the day. And it's basically here-ish right now. Now, it doesn't have to break down, but I think it probably will, like Dogecoin will. And from this point onward, it still basically went down 60% and eventually went down 90% from this point. So I'm expecting the same for Doge. But yeah, could be wrong on that front. Maybe Elon does something with it again, but it's kind of hilarious how much he's been tweeting about it, and it's still just been going down. BTC and ETH look super strong, even though at resistance. Would it be dumped to long here? Afraid to short, even though at resistance. I mean, it would be dumped to long here, yeah. According to my system, like I honestly, like, if I had to take a side, like I'd be I'd be struggling. If I had to take a trade, I wouldn't know which one. Like, this is at resistance, I wouldn't want to be shorting it. Definitely wouldn't want to be longing to that resistance. So it's like, it's a shit position to take a trade, so I don't. That's why I'm saying, like, it's stupid. Now, if you absolutely must take a trade, I mean, do it. It's just like, why not why didn't you take the trade down here, right? If you feel like you have to take a trade right now, then you should be thinking about like what's going on in your head when like prices are at support, when momentum starts turning. Like you should be thinking about that, not about, okay, fuck, I missed out on this. Like as a trader, as an investor, let's say you sold into 60Ks and you haven't rebought and you're kind of afraid you're gonna miss out, and you absolutely cannot miss out on this thing going up, even at the kind of risk of it just topping here and going back down, then I mean, sure, go ahead, buy it. It's just like as a trader, if you're kind of like forcing yourself to be in a trade all the time, you're like just trading very, very poorly. Like no decent trader is in a trade all the time. Like you want to be in a trade, you want to be out of the trade. Most of the time is going to be spent not in a trade, in my opinion anyway. Now, like you can have like a spot position or whatever, but that's a completely different ball game. But if you're trading on leverage, if you're kind of trading in general, like risking with like a risk reward kind of deal, you don't have to be in a trade all the time. Like I don't get this need to have action all the time, because I mean, I do kind of get it. It's getting boring just watching at the chart and kind of seeing, okay, I want to be buying support. But like, think back on like this, like the streams that we had in here, right? And I mean, you can look back at those and see what I said back then after we broke this to the upside. I said at this candle, right? At this breakout candle, I was like, finally, we have some higher time frame support to buy if it breaks down, right? And then people were like, it's never going back down there again because that's so far away. And it went up and I said, this is support. And people were laughing at me being like, dude, it's at 60K. This is at 30K. What are you talking about? And then it broke down and I got to buy 32K. And then I got to sell 42 and I got to buy 32 again, like a couple times, right? Now, I could have been impatient and bought like a resistance or bought something that I had no idea where it was going to go. But instead, I was just sitting there waiting for price to come to me to do business and then get in and out quick, right? If you don't have that patience, you're going to be one of the people that get liquidated in here. That's just how it is. And so, yeah. I'm not saying you shouldn't be longing here, right? If your system tells you to, if you have like a good reason for it, and I mean, there are good reasons for it. You could say like, we've tested this resistance a couple of times. I think this is going to be the breakout that we're going to get here. I mean, I'm down with that, right? It's just like, if it's coming from that standpoint and you know how to trade these breakouts, I mean, go ahead. If it's just, okay, I want to be in a trade, and that kind of sounded like it because you asked whether it's long because you couldn't see a short. I think that's a bad way to look at it. But everyone should be doing whatever they think is best. And then try it out. I mean, that's like the best way to learn anyway. Try it out, write down like how it went. Maybe you can even make like a profitable system out of it, right? Like you long resistance all the time. And then you kind of figure out which ones work and which ones don't. And then you can make a system out of that. So. Elon waiting to tweet at 200 sats times Doge for the last pump. I don't know what he's gonna do. Like, he's probably gonna tweet all the way down, is what I think. Is crypto as manipulated as Forex? Yeah. I mean, crypto is highly manipulated. It's just like we all kind of know it and we all kind of trade that way. I mean, when you see people have like retail by the balls, and like I said, this was pretty much exactly what happened in here. You don't fade that. Like the best you can do is join them. Like this is legitimately what happened in here, right? how you can kind of imagine this is like you have these short positions. You have these short positions that entered down here. And then you have a person that has all of these shorter spider balls. And if he wants to execute them, he can, right? And then if you see that setup and you know like that can happen, most of the time, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna join in on the fun, right? And I mean, it sucks for the people that kind of learn to short, like for all the retail people that kind of were bullish all the way, probably bought like into the 50, 60K range, saw half of their crypto disappear, or if they bought altcoins even more, and then they learn to kind of short in here, and then they get fucked by like people bigger than them in here. But that's just kind of the rite of passage. That's how crypto goes. And when you see that kind of setup, I mean, you know that they're gonna like, you put yourself in that position, you get fucked. It's just how it is. I still enjoy Don's analysis, but you gotta admit when you're wrong, it's okay. No one's perfect. When was I wrong though? Like, I mean, I'm more than down to admit when I'm wrong. It's just like I don't remember being wrong. At least recently. I mean, I've been wrong all the time. It's just like this range has been my playground, and I was right in here. I was a couple times I was wrong on the way up, just not recently. Market makers, really nice guys, are the ones that manipulate? No, that's not true. Market makers, at least like most of them, pretty much like the traditional definition, are just people that provide liquidity. They don't want to have like long or short exposure. They just want to be net neutral and make money off of you market buying, market selling. So like whenever you say market makers, and I mean, I've done that in the past because it's kind of like the crypto term for like bigger funds and stuff, but it's just wrong, right? Whenever you say that, people kind of that have been around for a longer time kind of think you're an idiot. I mean, I get what you're trying to say, right? When you're saying the market makers are the people that fuck people over, but that's not true. It's just how like the word is used in crypto, but it's not true. Like the market makers are the ones that kind of provide liquidity for this thing. So they're there, like they're sitting on the order book trying to make you sell into them and then buy into them. And they start hedging their positions and they kind of capture the in between, right? The few dollars of you market selling, market buying, and all that kind of jazz. They don't really try to get too much action going, as in they don't want to be long or short. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of market makers are really bitter about all of this because they've been market making very successfully on the way up of this thing for years and years, and they've been outperformed by idiots just holding, right? So while they took on much, much less risk, they're obviously not as rich as the counterparties that did take on some risk, and a lot of them are really pissed off at that. But I mean, that's just, I guess, the name of the game. But yeah, I mean, bigger funds can easily push the market one way or the other. And even like smaller, like even like big kind of individuals can do it because the market is so small and the players in it are so big that it's just easy to push around. Referring to this, Don said in a most recent episode of Weekly Open that he still thought Bitcoin was in a bear market. Now he's saying he was never a bear. Sorry, I gotta call you out on this one. I'm still saying this is a bear market. What do you know? Like, this is the problem that I have with like almost everyone in my comments for some reason. Like this, like my view is that this is a bear market, right? This is a bear market rally. We're probably gonna go to like break this out, maybe do like a range fake out, and then probably head down lower in general. But I can still, even though I believe that's the case, I can still make the bullish case for this because there's a bullish case to be made, right? And even though I think we're probably gonna head at least to the lows again, I can still say that, okay, this is the bullish case and this is what the arguments are for it, right? It's never, okay, this is just bearish or this is just bullish. It's always, okay, you have your bull arguments, you have your bear arguments, and there you go, right? And then you kind of choose which one you are, and you choose if you want to take action on any of those. And then if you have anything, you trade that, right? If you don't, you don't. Now, like, my belief is in general that pretty much exactly like 2018 is just gonna fuck people over. Whether it goes to like, whether it turns around here at 40K or 50K, I have no idea. But I think it's gonna fuck people over, and it's probably gonna head lower. But it might not do that. It might just head back into a bull market, and that is possible too. I'm not saying it's not. But whenever I like make a case for the side that I'm not on, or in general, like, I'm not short term anything right now, because like this doesn't scream anything to me. Like, it's not looking bearish short term. I could see this easily go higher. So I don't have an opinion right now. And we look at the monthly time frame, and that's pretty clearly bearish to me, at least like even in the near term, as in like the next few months. I could see this creep up and then go down, right? But whenever I make the argument for the opposite side, people just go completely ballistic, calling me out on garbage, where I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, if you can't make the case for the opposite side of like whatever you're arguing against, I mean, like, what kind of, it just seems so intellectual dishonest, and kind of just like this black and white thinking is just so weird to me. But yeah. Do whatever you must, right? I mean, if you're bullish, be bullish. If you're bearish, be bearish. I just give my view on this thing. And I never said I was never bearish or never bullish. I just said, like, these are the bullish arguments, these are the bearish arguments. Make your own case. Because right now, there's a good case for both. And I'm not taking any trade. I'm gonna take trades next week again. I'm like almost certain. Right now, I have no clue. We are at resistance. I wouldn't want to long into that. We have strong momentum on the upside. I wouldn't want to short into that. So I don't do anything. So, yeah. People have yes or no views done. Yeah, I've realized. And that's why people are so shit at trading. Because if you're just yes or no, I mean, have fun getting poor, right? Like, if you can't look at it like a subject or anything without just saying, okay, this is only one thing or the other, I mean, you make for a shit human being in general. Like, that's the worst quality to have, as like or one of the worst, when you can't like see the other side of an argument. In my opinion anyway, it's the most annoying thing to talk with people that have no idea what the other side looks like and are not able to kind of even understand any of it. So yeah, be a little bit more differentiated, I guess. Even if you're like, and the best thing is like, you can like, if you know both sides and you pick one of them based on like what you believe and what kind of makes sense to you, you're much better informed than if you're just like, you only know this side, you never even looked at this one. And then, I mean, what the fuck do? You just sound like an idiot all the time. Maybe you're right? But at that point, it's luck. It's not because you were right. It's just because, I mean, you picked the side that was right? Out of luck, because you don't know the other side. If you have to make your pick based on two sides of the coin, it's a little bit of a different story. So there you go. So yeah, sorry for the rant. It's just like, this is one of the things in general in life that annoys me the most, when people just can't look beyond what like their opinion of something is. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. ETH, like I said, ETH BTC kind of been choppy as fuck. I mean, like, legitimately didn't care about support at all. just kind of chopped through. Not surprised about this one because it's just led by Bitcoin right now. So this gets less and less relevant. Something to note though, this is trending down. You can even make like a descending triangle. And then if you look back, like we've had a couple of them, like that's basically how ETH's been topping. Now that doesn't have to mean it's gonna do it again. But yeah, even in this case, look at this. It broke down first. Sorry for the wonky lines. Broke down first and then mooned, right? So looking at this, I would be surprised if it turned around here. I think like if it breaks down here and then reclaims this, we're probably in for something like this. Not as violent, but like an up move anyway. If it breaks this in general, I think you want to be bearish until it reclaims it again. So, I mean, ETH against Bitcoin, not really too bullish, in my eyes anyway. I'm going to change my view if I see anything bullish on this. I don't have a strong view. I wouldn't go out and short ETH. But I wouldn't want to hold ETH more than Bitcoin. Doesn't really make sense to me. Like this making lower highs, starting to trend down. It made higher lows, started trending up basically in here, had one fake out and then went, right? You don't want to be assuming the opposite, right? So there's not going to be the case as well, right? We get like a downtrending move. You don't want to be fading that until it kind of makes, maybe it does something like this. You can start getting bullish again. Until then, like I don't see a good case to be too bullish on this thing. Besides buying weekly support, but that's been tested a bunch of times. I don't buy those generally. So ETH not looking too hot, not looking terrible. I admit, like not terrible enough to short, in my opinion. It's just like I think like there's a good chance that even if it's bullish, it's gonna break down here and then go. And I mean, if you're buying here and you can take that pain, that's fine. But the thing is, like, I think like those are the two options, either this or just break down fully. So I don't see a good reason to just trade ETH. I much prefer the Bitcoin chart in general right now. And on the USD pair, this looks pretty, like it doesn't look too terrible in the sense that it has held these lows, right? The problem is like it keeps on spiking into them and this recovery is meh at best, right? It took out the highs and kind of is not doing anything. In general, I think like if Bitcoin goes completely ballistic, ETH USD can go to 3.2K. Reason why I think 3.2K is because there's resistance there. But at that point, like it's probably going to be outperformed by Bitcoin, even if it goes there. And Bitcoin would have to go completely ballistic. As long as EIP doesn't do anything like super meaningful. And that could happen. The problem is I can't judge it because I'm not a technical kind of guy. So like if you want to make a bullish case for ETH, EIP is coming. And if you have like any kind of idea about the tech stuff and you know it's going to be good and you like the chart because it's at weekly support, I think that's still a somewhat okay bullish argument. I think in general, like the market just looks too bearish for that to kind of stick. But against Bitcoin, against USD, I mean, this is at best in a range. In general, on the higher time frames, doesn't look too hot though. And then the other altcoins just all look like garbage. At least the ones that I've looked at. There's probably, like there's some exceptions. Right? There's some exceptions. I actually talked like 2 weeks ago, I think, on a podcast about this. And I was like, yeah, somewhere like in here, I think. And I was like, I've looked at the game, I liked it, I should have just bought it. And yeah, fucking Gigamoon. This is like the one lesson that I think people should take with them in crypto in general. If something is at least somewhat decent and you see it early, just fucking buy it. Don't be like me being like, okay, this is pretty decent, but it's still like, I don't see the point too much. Like crypto in general, like most of the crypto stuff has like a shitty experience, like a user experience. And like most of this, and then if you find one that is not completely garbage, like this is the garbage tier, and then you have like the not quite super garbage, and then like you have like something decent that's even rarer, right? That's like a tiny percentage. And then good, there's barely nothing. Like there's, if anything, there might not be anything in the good tier, right? But if anything is not in this tier, and you see that early, you can make money on it, right? Because people realize, okay, holy shit, this is something that is not complete garbage. I'm just gonna buy it. And this is one of those, I guess. TA-wise, impossible to buy, impossible to sell. It's just like something that you can't really be trading. Fundamentally wise, like at this evaluation, really hard to judge too. But yeah, that's kind of like my tidbit. It's something I'm working on. Like whenever I thought like, oh, this is actually not so bad, still not good, but it's not that bad. It's mooned every time. And it's just how crypto works, I guess. AXS is a pretty garbage game. Yes. The thing is, crypto games, right? We can make it a thing. Garbage. Or we can make super garbage. Then you have garbage. And you have bad. Right? Crypto games. 99% in here. 1% or like 0 point, like a tiny fraction in here. And then like 5 to 10 maybe. I mean, for me personally, I've only ever seen one that I said like is bad and not garbage, not super garbage. And that's this one. And you can see the chart, right? So as long as it's not super garbage or garbage, but just bad, I mean, fucking moon it, right? Crypto games suck so bad. So like anything that doesn't suck like giga hard is head and shoulders above the rest. So there you go. That's kind of my view on crypto games. I mean, I've played some on fucking Litecoin. Worst thing I've ever seen. Like mobile games, 10 times better. Anything really. So yeah. That's my view on that. Like I said, like these altcoins, I've been talking about negative price discovery on Litecoin, for example. I think that's probably gonna do it soon. Bitcoin Cash, I mean, that has a little bit longer to go. It's actually nearing support. It's just really hard to buy. Then again, like this is actually pretty decent support. If you're in any way bullish BCH, you should probably be looking whether you see any strength in here. And if you don't, ban this shit. Because I showed you like the direction of Bitcoin, right, earlier. Like we talked about this, right, at the beginning of the stream. And now look at the old altcoins that have been around for a while, right? And tell me the direction of those. I mean, ADA is a little bit of a new one. Bitcoin Cash. Even to some extent, I mean, XRP is basically just sideways, tilting down a little bit. But like any of these old coins that have been around for a while, and I mean, it's just gonna be true for every single other coin out there. The only one, like the only notable, the only one that isn't quite like that and hasn't been for like a while now is ETH. Like that has still been trending up. Might turn into like a sideways kind of thing, right? But in general, the longer a coin is around, the more likely it's just gonna head into a downtrend against Bitcoin, right? So if you like trade these, I mean, go ahead, right? There's a bunch of money to be made. And I mean, I've been trading these for years and years. I still remember this pump back in 17. Made a shitload of money on Bitcoin Cash, and I've made several times money on this on the long side, even though it's in a downtrend. But you gotta realize, if you're holding this for the long term, even if it's gonna have some like giant pumps, probably gonna, like, this is where Bitcoin Cash is headed. And if you don't realize that, like, and most altcoins are like this, on the long term, they're just headed down. And most altcoins, what they do is they start out like this, right? And then you're like, holy shit. Then they dump and you're like, ah, fuck. And then they pump again and you're like, yes. And they dump again and then have a second cycle, and they do this all over and all over until at some point they're in that same direction. And then every time I tell people, like, this is the direction that altcoins are headed, like most altcoins, ETH is an example, like is not one of those, or has not been. And there's a few other ones, but very, very rarely. Most people start like showing me charts of like half-a-year-old coins or like a-year-old coins and tell me, bro, but my altcoin is different. Look at this direction. But that's just because it's not been around for long enough. So trade these things. Don't get too attached. It's the best advice that I can give. Or have like a godlike ability to judge these things and see which one sticks around or not. Invite Salsa. We had Salsa on just recently. If you want to watch that, check it out. It's still on the channel. Morning, Doug. Hope you're well. I woke up early to catch the live stream. Keep doing what you're doing. You rock. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. The nice messages are always appreciated. So are the likes, by the way. I've been told that helps. And maybe we can save some YouTube crypto folks from the open-mouthed idiots on YouTube if we do that. So would appreciate it. If not, I mean, like I've told this story before, like I never like videos. So, I mean, I do not deserve a like because, I mean, I'm the worst kind of YouTube viewer as well. Kind of feels rich asking for them if I'm too lazy to do it. But yeah, there you go. Would you be able to get Nomad on? He's been kind of dodging that for years, so I would be surprised. I've asked him like 10 times already. Don, can you summarize Bitcoin one last time before the end of stream? Okay, we can go over it real quick, but I mean, there's not that much to say. So, high time frame. This thing is bearish if it closes below this red zone. It's probably not going to. I'm I'm pretty damn certain it's not going to. If it closes below here, it's really bearish. If it closes at 38K, this is turning into support. So that is like the area to buy. And if we lose it at that point, it's really bearish. If it just closes like this, I mean, like I said, 38K is good support. This is really good resistance, higher time frame wise, and a lower time frame wise, we're right at resistance. 35K is also support in here. So that kind of aligns with the weekly. That said, the momentum is really strong. I wouldn't want to be fading it like on the short side of things. I mean, you can if you want to, but in general, I wouldn't. Like, this is not a short that I would be taking. The same that I said in here, like if you want to be shorting, I mean, you don't have my blessings right here. I mean, you have a little bit more of my blessings, but like I wouldn't say, okay, that's like the best trade to take. Same with longing here. It's just like a place where you don't want to be doing business. And that's kind of my view on this thing. Like high time frame wise, like you're going to see like how this weekly closes, where you want to be bidding and where you have your invalidation. In general, the fact that we've tested weekly resistance twice, like there's a slim chance that this is a fake out. So probably gonna head higher, like into the 45s, and unless it just kind of completely reverses this week, and that would have probably to do something with news, and those I can't predict. So just not expecting it. I'm myself gonna be out the weekend because I'm taking part in a golf tournament. And I mean, I've only been playing golf for like a week or two, it feels like. So that's going to be hilarious. But yeah, I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to take, like, I'm going to take my laptop, but I'm not going to take any of my crypto stuff. Not even, like, I don't want to have any trading access because I want to take some time off, chill with friends. Handicap Pro, dude, like, I've just started. I just like I pretty much have. I think it's the lowest one that you can have because I've never actually played a tournament before or like improved my handicap. But I played today, and I actually fucking like it's getting there. Like if I sometimes have like bad swings and stuff where I just like have the ball just bounce shittily or just go somewhere completely differently. But other than that, like most of the time I hit them right and they go where I want them to. So feels good, man. I want to see if I can win this thing. Sub 20 soon. I honestly think like I've got a pretty good read on this. But the unfair thing is like I've had a private trainer. So it's like I've not been doing much solo. So it's kind of like cheating. You get like so good so fast when you have like someone just standing there correcting you all the time. So but yeah, I mean yeah, the only reason why you learned it was because like a friend asked me, and I want to beat him basically. So that's kind of my motivation, and so far it's been fun. So yeah, I think that's been enough, honestly. Like I said, really hard place to take trades on Bitcoin. Even more so on the altcoins, I would stay away from them personally. But yeah, the weekly close is gonna be telling. The momentum like has to kind of maintain. If it fizzles out in the next few days, kind of be shitty. And yeah, I'm gonna have a good weekend. Hope you guys have too. Friday, Kret's gonna maybe have a guest on. I don't know what he's got planned, but it's not gonna be with me. So yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Thanks again to the sponsor of the show, which is FTX or Blockfolio, or either or. They've renamed. We don't know yet how we're gonna proceed with this thing, but their app still exists on the App Store. It's called FTX. I think it even has in the name like the FTX, formerly known as Blockfolio or whatever. Still the same kind of thing. So if you want to check that out, I can only recommend it for like mobile trading, or like even like just having a bunch of crypto there. Don't really mind that too much. Like whenever people ask me like how do I buy crypto, like complete beginners, that's something that I recommend just based on the fact how easy it is, right? You don't want to overcomplicate things for noobs. So that's why I've been saying it's a pretty good tool. So yeah, if you want to check that out or have like family and friends check it out to either buy the complacency shoulder or like bull market continuation, send them the links in the description. They probably appreciate it or hate you for it, either or. And yeah, we'll see each other on Monday probably. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.